Big things and little packages. And this right here, whew, this is a game changer. I have been shooting on a Canon EOS R5 now for a couple months, and I love the camera. It does amazing, amazing photography, by far my favorite photography camera I've ever had, and it does really interesting video as well. Not without its quirks, but I think we all know what that is. But one of the big things about the Canon EOS R5 is it is an RF mount system. Now that's to be expected, we all knew that's where Canon was going, but I am a guy that has invested for years and years in Canon EF glass. So as I was making this switch, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I really didn't want to drop another $25,000, $30,000 on a bunch of RF lenses when I had very, very good EF glass that I really loved and worked with for years. And to their credit, Canon just really, really dropped the mic and just knocked it out of the park when they came up with their EF to RF adapters for the Canon EOS R line series. And this one right here is the one that I just think is so revolutionary. This is a drop-in filter mount adapter for the Canon EOS R. And literally what's great about this, it's an adapter, you put it right on the front of your camera, but check this out. Boom. There's an ND filter built into the mount. It literally sits between your lens and the camera. You just slip it in. And if I hold it up right here to show you, you can see all I have to do once it's on there, I can just dial it in. And I have a variable ND right here. Super easy. I just love, look how smooth that is. Super smooth, super good. Okay, so why do I consider this so revolutionary? Well, ever since 2008, when the 5D Mark II came out with the first kind of significant video SLR features, I really think that those of us that use small form cameras, internal ND filters has been the holy grail on a small form camera. If you've ever used a cinema camera, hands down one of the best things is having those internal ND filters. So you're not messing with threading on filter screws and having to, when you change lenses, get your different filter mounts on there, or sometimes you just don't want to deal with matte boxes. The convenience of having an internal ND filter is honestly one of the biggest selling points a lot of times for what makes a cinema camera so great. Well, now what's happened is this little system essentially acts as an internal ND system on a camera this big. Absolutely amazing. Every one of you that shoot should be really excited about this, because this, in my opinion, is a game changer. So let me show you how it works and talk about the pros and cons of it. So basically, this lens adapter works like any other lens adapter out there. You have your mark, you just put it right on there, you slip it on, and it slips right on your lens. And now once it's on the lens, you can take any lens that you got here. I'm just gonna put an old 24 to 105 that I got, slip it on there, and boom, it slips on completely easy. Now, super secure. I mean, this feels like it's part of the Canon R5. I've never had an issue with anything being loose. The other thing about this that's great is that this EF adapter has no drop off in any way, shape, or form that I can tell in my autofocus between my native EF mounts and this. The autofocus works perfect. And you know, I can control my lens, all this stuff just like that. So you have no quality reduction in this adapter using EF lenses. So it's just like getting your old great EF glasses and throwing them on a brand new system. Really, really great. So basically, once you get it on there, you can hold it up and then literally just use your finger and dial in your ND like an ND. And really the last thing about this, if you are using this, let's say you're done with the ND filter, you can pop it right out, boom, and pop in a clear filter just like that. And boom, now I've got this on here. Now there's no ND filter. I can just go shoot and I'm good to go. And that's it. It really works. Super simple, super intuitive. So let's go ahead and talk about the pros and cons of this system and whether or not you might want to have this on your camera system. Well, the first pro is just this. This is so convenient, and if you've ever been a shooter, the amount of time that you have to sit there and screw on the filters or maybe pop them off to switch lenses, this saves you time and it makes your day so much more efficient. And the great thing is you can use this for photography or for video. Now, if you're using video, obviously, if you want to get a big wide aperture and you're out on a bright sunny day, you're going to have to use an ND filter. This means you can literally go through every single bag in your kit and you never have to put on an ND filter on the front. It just pops right on your camera and it's good to go. As long as it's an EF mount, it will work. Saves you a ton of time. If you are a photographer, well, a lot of us out there, I know I do a lot of works when I work with flash off camera. Well, the max sync on here is usually 1/200th, 1/250th of a second. Once again, I use an ND filter for a lot of photography. I can do that. It drives me crazy when I'm doing a photo shoot, especially as fast as it goes. I hate having to switch ND filters if I'm doing flash photography. Now, I can have my telephoto on. Boom, I want to go to quick wide angle. I can switch it. Boom. I switch it out. I mean, when you switch it out, it doesn't matter. The ND filter never leaves your camera. It's always there. Whatever lens I put on there, it's good to go. And go. So the amount of efficiency and time savings in how you shoot is absolutely critical. So, love that. Hands down, an incredible, strong pro. Another thing is, these have no color shift in it that I can really see. It's a minimal, tiny bit of color shift. And I'll do a little test here just to show you that. But really, one of the things you usually do combat with ND filters, even expensive ones, is it does shift your color a little bit. This is actually one of the best color shifts I've ever seen in an ND filter. I mean, it is so minimal. It's really, really great. So just from a pure quality standpoint, it is great. I also have seen no quality degradation of this whatsoever. Now, another thing that's also good, if you've used ND filters a lot of you are using variable NDs. Sometimes when you shift it all the way over, you will get the dreaded X of death. And if you have a cheap ND filter, you know exactly what that means. And sometimes it can creep in even when you're not completely aware of it, and it can just ruin a shot, especially if you're doing video. This, no dreaded X of death. Hey man, works for me. And in my opinion, this thing saves you money because I know now that I have, some of my lenses have 77 millimeters on the front, some of them have 82, so I'm getting adapters and figuring out what filters to buy. This is great because I don't have to buy adapters for multiple lenses, and I don't have to worry about that expense. So while you spend money up front, I do think over time, because you can use this for anything, it actually does save you money. So I would consider that a very, very big pro. And then really, my favorite pro about this, and I'm gonna switch this out, is this. I can take this, my Canon R5, and then I can take a puppy like this, a good old-fashioned cinema lens. And honestly, it doesn't matter what cinema lens you use. As long as it's got an EF mount, I can put that on there, and look at that. I have a cinema lens, $4,000 lens, and check this out. I put it on there, and I can dial in my ND on my cinema lens. No big filter mats that I have to put in there on a matte box. Super simple. If you're a run and gun kind of guy but want to have that on your camera, this is an incredible innovation because I can literally throw any lens on there and it works. As long as it's an EF mount, I can do it. And you see how big the circumference is here on these cinema lenses. I'm not worrying about matte boxes. I'm not worrying about putting big, huge pieces of glass on the front of my lens. And like I said, this does not degrade the quality of the glass. Man, that is an incredible, amazing, huge, gigantic pro. One of the things I really, really love and got me so excited that I knew I could take cinema glass and get an internal ND in the camera on essentially a sub $4,000 camera. Absolutely incredible. And then really one last little pro that I would say is that, you know, because this system is new, what you're starting to see is third companies are starting to make actual third-party filters for this system. So what that means is if you buy this system, hopefully as it goes down the way, we'll be able to see like get some black mist and other things like that. So you can get polarizers, ND filters, you name it, from both Canon, which is expensive, and other third-party systems. So it's just a system that I think is going to grow, which makes it a huge pro in my book. Now, it's not a perfect system. Let's talk about a couple of the cons. And really, the first con is actually kind of tied over from the pros, but that is this. This thing is so convenient and it's so just on there, you forget about it sometimes. Sometimes you can go there and maybe forget that you have your ND system on. It's just that convenient that you go. I just did a shoot where I had a light meter. I was doing some light readings. I couldn't figure out why I was off by so many stops. And then I realized, oh, I have the ND filter on. It's just so back there, I didn't even notice it. So it is something to be aware of. If you are using this system, you are going to want to basically make sure you're aware, because sometimes you'll forget about it because it is so unbelievably convenient. Now, another con is the price. It is expensive. As it stands right now, it's about $400 to get it. And the lenses, even if you want this like little clear mount right here, this is expensive too. So it is an expense, but I do believe, going back to the pro section, is that at the end of the day, you will actually probably end up saving money on this because of the cost of having to get multiple filters for multiple cameras. But hey man, it is an expensive adapter, let's be honest. So that is one thing for you to consider as well. And then really the biggest drawback I personally see on this is that I always use cages on my cameras. And the biggest problem I have is I have a small rig cage right now. And the problem is with a cage, I can't slip the filter in and out of the cage. And that means that I just can't natively get that. So what I actually have to do when I'm shooting like that, to get around it, and if you are using cages, this is what I recommend doing. I just pop off the adapter like this. I'll put it on and then go like that if I have to change something off. I don't consider that big of a pain, because I would way rather, if I have a cage on here, I would way rather pop this off, maybe switch this in and out, and then drop it back on and screw it back on, than have to be on the front of a lens, unscrewing the filter, putting on another lens and screwing back on. This is still more inconvenient, even if you have a cage and have to pop it on and off. All right, so boom, I absolutely love this thing. And my conclusion on this, if you are a shooter, if you have an RF system, man, this is almost one of the reasons why I decided not to start adapting actually RF glasses, because this, I felt, added so much more functionality to my EF lenses. If you are an RF lens shooter, you can't use this, at least right now, I don't think. So what it means, if you are a person that has invested in EF glass, you actually have an added boosted benefit by switching over to the Canon R system, just because you can use this adapter and it can unlock so much more potential from your camera, and more importantly, from your lens. All right, so that's all I have to say today. Please leave me any comments if you got any questions down below. If you're interested in this, feel free to subscribe. That would help me out too. And yeah, guys, let me know what you think. Good luck. Go out there and keep on shooting.